Hello, everybody. Hold on just one hot second. I may have got distracted by a peacock and need to need to make one small preparation here. But what I want to show you is so those of you who came to the class earlier today, we were talking about peacocks and basically my cat was having her breakfast and I was like, I think the peacock's outside, and the peacock was on my porch. And so I went over and I tried to share the video. It didn't work that well. However, at the end of class, I poked my head out the window here, and the peacock looked up at me and went like this and opened himself up. So I have some photos for you, just because I think it's auspicious. Okay. And this is what he did. Yeah. If I ever need to sell my house, this is the photo I'm going to use. Right. So I think it's pretty auspicious, and think about the idea of what a peacock warrior is, and that this guy just keeps showing up here. Um, so give me one hot second here. I just need to do one small thing for preparation here. I just because I got distracted by this little, you know, beautiful bird. I just need to. I didn't. I finished last night, and then I forgot to make the document that I show on the screen. So I'm making that right now. It takes 3 seconds. We probably won't get this far, but that's okay. So the cool thing about what's going on in this text, so while I'm doing this, I can kind of talk about it, is we are in the middle of like story time, right? And what happens after this story of Jason Kappa, who is sort of thrown in the middle about understanding emptiness, about this in this emptiness chapter, because Pabonka's presentation is based upon Jason Kappa's presentation of emptiness. Um, and so we're getting the story of how Jason Kappa became the authoritative source on emptiness and why he's can be considered authoritative. Um, and then we're just going to dive in. We probably won't get there today, but we'll start the last classes of this term of all. It's going to be all emptiness all the time. So story time will be over. I apologize. It won't be as fun, but we're going to get into the depths of translating um, everything we need to know about emptiness, which we could. So let's get started. Is this the correct file? Yes, there it is. Okay. So we ended last class. We were in the middle of a story. And so the story we're hearing about is some guy named Bodang Chokle Namgyal. Okay, we're just a call him, let's call him Bo. All right, it's a Bodang, right? And he was just hanging out, walking around, and he came across a kind of wandering beggar who was reciting what sounded to him like a very profound text. And in that, and so as he was listening, he was thinking, oh, maybe this is Chandakirti. That sounds like Chandakirti. Then he was like, well, maybe it's Nagarjuna. That he was like, this is very, very profound. Um, and then as the beggar continues to recite, he learns from the text that the text itself was based upon Nagarjuna and Chandakirti. Right. So the lineage of all of this mainly is, so Arya Nagarjuna wrote a book called, well, a poetry is called Wisdom, just basically called Wisdom. And then Chandakirti wrote a book called Entering the Middle Way, based off of Wisdom. And then we're going to find out in a moment about Geshe Kappa, but Geshe Kappa then wrote, he's actually written several commentaries. He wrote a commentary on Chandakirti called The Illumination of True Thought, which barely mentions Nagarjuna's wisdom. And Geshe translated that book, and it's probably will be published later this year. And then Geshe Kappa also wrote a commentary on Nagarjuna's wisdom directly. And Geshe is translating that as well. He's in the middle, always about 25% done, I think, of translating that book. So we're dealing with a lineage of teachings that come from Nagarjuna, which was, that was about 700 years-ish after the Buddha, where Nagarjuna basically had found that the Buddha, that the understanding of what the Buddha really meant wasn't understood. And his coming was actually, the Buddha actually mentioned Nagarjuna 700 years prior, that someone named Nagarjuna would come and clarify the meaning. So that's where we are in the story. Bodong is listening to the recitation of Geshe Kappa's Praise of Dependent Origination, which was written after he saw emptiness directly, because that's what an Arya would do. And that's what they say an Arya would do, is that after they see emptiness, there's an element of praising dependence, meaning understanding how dependence works. And so he was praising the Buddha for having taught dependence perfectly, because then he had the direct experience of it himself. All right, here we go. We're going to continue on with our story here. Persis, you're the first one I see here, so can you start here?
Thank you. Rang po te la dri wa sek ha check song ka pa chen po sek she wei wei check la ma la ta ba to thuộc mạch pa kia nei cheo wa Dũng 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 Kiang check Lama Sang Dong Du Tak Xin La check Xin Pa Tang
Shake
check Xin Xin Pa Tang Pa Tang Pa Tong Thong Thọ Kẹt Gel Ma Thọ Kiang.
Nice. Good job, Persis.
Thank you.
So then Bodong honorifically made a requested to the beggar. Basically, he wanted to know who composed the work, right? He asked, he's like, who was the one who composed that work? And he responded, he said, oh, the composition was by Pa. And well, the sa here indicates the by. No, none other than Geshe Kappa Chempa. Okay. So in that moment, from that moment arose in this Budang, this guy, right? An incomparable faith in Jason Kappa. Depa means faith, right? So an unshakable, great faith showed up because he was like, oh, this guy knows his, we say in English, it's much more polite than that. It's this guy is incredibly perfect. This guy knows what he's talking about. And he's not even just any guy. He's Jade Lama, right? He is the Lord, like his Lama, right? Almost in the sense of like in that moment, he it was almost like he was like, Jason Kaba is now my teacher. All right. And then immediately, it was like right away, he left to Jelwar. What does that mean? Right. He went to meet him, right? But more like it means more like to meet him in person, right? It's not just like meet, but like meet him in person. So he left to do that. He heard his teachings. He developed great faith just in hearing them, which is very important to think about. What happens when you hear the teachings? We talked about that last week. And so he went to go meet him. He's like, boom, I'm going to go meet my teacher, Kyung. But, but what happened? He was not Matub, he was not able to meet him. Why? Because Jason Kappa, J Lama, already went to the pure realms for the benefit of others. Shendendu. All right. Meaning that by the time this guy, Budang, heard the teachings, he's like, I need to go meet my teacher. Unfortunately, by that point, Jason Kappa had already basically left this world and was no longer in his body. So that's freaking disappointing. you know, and I think there's also something in there for us to think about, right? Like, why are we hearing this? Why are we hearing the story this way? Like, we would kind of imagine that we would have heard a story about someone who did go and meet him. And this is kind of this is what I love about LAMRIM, because it asks us the question: why is Pabonka telling us a story about a high lama who saw emptiness directly, who wrote Praise on Dependent Origination, who wrote all these great books, Illumination of True Thought, and a commentary on Nagarjuna's wisdom, Lamrim Chemo. He did all of these things, right? And I'm sure he had lots of students, which we know about. He had lots of students, Kedrup J, Gelsub J, for example, two of them. We heard about a student earlier named what was his name? Den something, Tokden, right? That was his name, Tokden? The one that there was the realized one. Let's see here. He had a student named the realized one. Okay. So then we all of a sudden we meet a guy, some random person, it's not just random. There's actually a commentary on who this person is. Let me look this up. I have it on my notes here. Yeah, Tokden was the name of the realized one, Jampo Gatso. Podang Chokle Namgyal is was a very prolific writer of Tibet. And he wrote hundreds of volumes of writings and poetry. So we have this other famous guy. You know, if you're in Tibet, you would know it. You would know he's famous. Who hears Jason Kappa, develops great faith, goes to try to meet him, and then wah wah. Sorry, you lose. You don't get to meet him. Like Jason Kappa already left. Why? Why are we hearing this story now? Right? Like, what's the secret meaning? This is what LAMRIM is about. Secret meanings. Like what in a kadam in the sense of kadampa, like how is it particularly applicable to you right now? Right? The teacher potentially can go at any time. He didn't have the karma to meet his teacher. You know, he heard the great teaching, but then didn't have the karma for it. You know, and the question would be then what does somebody do in that moment? Right? We don't get any other details. We get there's one part of the story I haven't told you yet, which we're gonna it's like the next line. But we don't really get any more details about this particular student, right? Maybe there's a message in it that if you have found your teacher, that you should try to gel, right? You should try to meet them face to face. Zoom is great. Zoom counts. Don't worry. It's all right. Zoom's are Zoom functions. But really, like there's don't wait. Maybe there's something in there about not waiting. We don't have time. All right, let's see what happens next. All right. All right. Who's next? The next picture here. Da, 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 da. She's translating. You're translating. Next one is Anastasia Mansarova.
Selten 생로 속 남칼 톨때 못남 답배 때다가 댕기 된 살밥바 속기 남다 ngosar 와유.
Okay, great. So when he learned of this, okay, he made a tapa. He made a munlam. He made a great prayer. He made a fervent prayer, a powerful prayer. All right. And what did he do? He took his ser and his nul, all of his gold and silver, probably coins, etc. All right. So he took these three things. Etc. means lots of things. So he took all the things. Jalten. And Jalten is a special word that he was bringing these items to be. So when he met his teacher, this was going to be his offering to the teacher. So when he was going to meet Jason Kappa face to face, he was going to make an offering. All right. And so he brought all of his gold and his silver, etc., meaning lots of things. Okay. And it doesn't mean you have to give gold and silver to your teacher. That's not what it means. But what it represents is that he was giving his life. He was giving what was most valuable to him to his teacher to say, please teach me. Now, that doesn't mean give all your things to your teacher, please. Okay, that's not what this means. This is not This is not a cult. This is not any of those things. Okay, that's not what this is saying. Okay. You know, I think if someone ever did that to me, I'd just probably give it back. Right. Like the offering is the point of view is the offering, but or the willingness to make the offering. But it's a state of mind that's willing where you're willing to offer yourself to your teacher. Meaning that you're saying what you're saying is you're not giving yourself in this up as like a subservient, subservient slug or horse that runs around and does shit for the teacher. That's not what that means. Okay. What it means is that you're saying, I want to be taught. I'm emptying my cup. Remember that from the last class? If your cup is too full, the teacher can't put anything in it. Right? If your motivation, if there's a hypocrisy or there's some kind of error in your Dharma practice, some pride, some arrogance, or something like that, some Dak Chenzen, your cup is too full. The teacher can't put anything into it. Right? It's just like you just keep pouring water over top and nothing else goes in. Right. But as that metaphor does work, like if you have a cup full of like, let's say Kool-Aid or just like, some red juice, right? And I'm pouring water on it, eventually it mixes in, right? But it takes a whole boatload longer time to mix the water from the top than it is just to empty your damn cup and give it up. Right? Empty your cup and let your Lama fill it, right? But the idea here is, and it's not easy to empty your cup. It's not easy to give your most valuable things to your Lama, which is really your mind and heart, and saying, look, I want to be taught. I need teachings. It's not easy to do that. And you might start small. You might only empty your cup a quarter of the way. That's okay. Right. Then you empty it a little bit more, maybe a little bit more until you're comfortable. Like this isn't saying just like throw all the water out right away and then like burn. Some people do that, and it's a path. And it can be done. And eventually you have to do it anyway. If you want to reach enlightenment, you have to give up your thought of who you think you were anyway, which is what your cup is full of. We even have an expression in English saying full of yourself. Right? It's kind of the same thing. Like you're so full of your ducks in, you're holding on to, you're cherishing yourself. Right? That you can't hear teachings. You can't hear any of that. Right? So in this case, Bodong was on his way to meet his teacher. And he was giving up his most valuable things for the Jelten, for that meeting, right? Basically saying, please teach me. My teacher, when he met his teacher, gave him his bank book. We don't know what bank books are anymore because we're too young. I had one when I was a kid. It's basically, they print everything out on this. It looks like a little passport. And then they put it in the machine. And then, when you take money out, they put it through the machine and then it like prints money on it. It tells you how much is in your account and things like that. It was old computers, like what the balance was. He gave his bank book to his teacher, and his teacher was like, what's this? And he goes, that's all my money. And he threw it back at him. And he said, I don't need it. Right. But he was willing to give it. Like there's a difference. So this guy was willing to give all his gold and silver coins for that first meeting. And I hope that I communicated that you don't have to give all of your wealth to your teacher when you meet them. That's not what that means. Okay. It's not what it means. What it means is you're willing to be taught. Okay. And then if you feel called in the future to support your teacher's mission, then you can think about supporting the mission financially or maybe not financially. Maybe you're supporting their mission by serving, for example, like serve ACI. We have thousands of little details of things that need to happen. That's serving your teacher. And I hope eventually to be able to pay a lot of you. But there's a deep, deep thing that happens when you understand karma. And I'm going to stop the screen for a second because I'm going to go on another trip right now. And that really is that where does money come from? Money doesn't come from, hard work. Money comes from your generosity, right? So, separating your Dharma service and not expecting to get paid for it is a really amazing karma because you understand the difference. We offer work studies and scholarships to lots of things that we do for people that don't have the funds for it. But if you have the money for it, pay the money and serve because they're not related to each other. Right. When I was working my corporate jobs, making lots of money, I would go to the events and I would get my first event, I got like a shared room with 8 people and I was like, this is BS. How am I going to do a retreat with 7 other people snoring? And so that was like, to me, it's worth it. And so I paid for a private room and I volunteered. And Nick and Rob, who were running those events, they were like, Tim, you do enough. You don't have to pay. And I said, no, you don't understand. I do have to pay. There's to me, they're separate. This event costs money. The food costs money. The venue costs money, all of those things. And I have it right now. So they will not teach you the word BS in Duolingo, Marina. You need to learn that directly from the holy lips of your friends. um, that's a funny way of putting it. But no, like for me, I had the money, so I paid the money because there might be a time in the future where I don't have the money, right? But access to the Dharma is not dependent upon one's money. It should never be, right? And that's why we offer all of our programs. All of our online programs have a cost. Why do they have a cost? Because it costs money for us to run ACI. I'm sorry. The annual budget is like $800,000 now. Okay. Last year we brought in over $1 million, but 400,000 of it was the Kyoto event. So that doesn't really count. Right. But understand that like, it sounds like a lot of money, but it just freaking disappears. It just disappears, right? And there might be a time when ACI doesn't have money. Right. But so we charge a moderate amount for our online events. But if you can't afford it, you have an option, buy donation, anything that price and below, all the way down to 0. Right? You can choose the 0 option and you get all the teachings, period. Right? And that's how we make money. Get it? We make money by giving it away. Our generosity, like ACI, when I started working at ACI 2017, when I was started the director, we had $50,000 in the bank. Our annual budget was $50,000 basically. All right. And I had to work hard to create a salary for myself because that money paid for everything else. Right. You see, but so we essentially started from zero, right? And the money when the bank was just not because we saved it, was just because we just had an event, right? But it's by giving it away that is what creates the karma for it to be bigger, right? And I know so many of you volunteer, and I do want to be able to pay people, and it's a slow process because each time we expand, there's needs that just running a business is freaking expensive. And the more money you make, the more you have to administer that money and report on it and do all of these things. So there's a lot of like back end things that nobody sees, right? So I have an announcement to make. It's not official yet, but I'm making it official as director of ACI. We did have a little bit of extra money. So starting soon, probably not till July, we're going to be having a monthly. You ever go to like a restaurant or where they have like this parking spot is reserved for the employee of the month, which is really annoying because it's a really good parking spot and I want it. Right. But what we're going to do is we're going to, we did get a little extra money in the last event, and I want to start sharing it to make sure we keep getting extra money. So we're going to start a program called Volunteer of the Month. Okay. And it's going to have a monetary award to it as well. It's not a lot of money, but it's nice. It's going to be a $500 a month prize. And there's going to be a second place too. It's like volunteer of the month and then second volunteer of the month. I don't know. We'll have to find a sexier name for it. We need to find a more interesting name for that. Basically, and that will be a $250 a month award as well. So, I've allocated, it's about $10,000 for the year. I've allocated that just for, and it's going to be across all the departments and everything that we do to recognize. And it's more about recognizing the hard work that everybody does for us, and if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have an organization, and I'm being transparent about our finances. So, that like, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. Like $800,000 is not very much for an organization as large as we are. What? No. Oh, she caught another lizard. She caught a lizard 2 weeks ago, brought it in the house, one of the big fatties. Hey, put it down. Put it down. Hold on just a second. Okay, here she is. Not only did she capture little fatty lizard 2 weeks ago, not only did he survive, not only did I catch him last night, it took me a half an hour while I was preparing these classes to capture him. What did she just do? She just brought him back in. Same lizard. If you hold on 1 second, I'm going to put a bowl over top of him so I can take him back outside. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to save the life of another being. Maybe my health will improve. Okay. What the hell was I talking about? ACI, money, volunteers. Okay, so we're going to be starting that probably in July. Just because we want to share. We want to share the money. Like we want to share what we have, and hopefully that will, maybe we'll, within some of these classes, there will be a donor who's just been waiting for Tim to ask how they can donate their money to ACI in a very, very powerful way. And that, like, there's how do you sign up to volunteer? See, look at everyone's like, I want the money. No, no, no. You can reach out to Alejandra Hasso in Telegram. um, or you can write me and I'll push you to the right person. So really maybe someday we'll come across a donor who wants to support all of our translators. I figured it out the other day that if we paid everybody for what they do on an hourly rate of a modest $30 an hour, we probably need about $300,000 to $400,000 a year. If we paid every translator for every hour that they translated, either written or interpreting online. Okay. Like it's a lot of money. and getting people to do work for your organization has nothing to do with how much money you have. Right? There's no karmic correlation. All your workers can go on strike if you're anyway. So basically, okay, we're still stuck in this story. Bodong goes to meet his teacher. Okay. This is why we're talking about the volunteer award ceremony. And then he brings gold and silver as an offering, basically saying, I'm offering you my empty cup. Okay. Maybe that would be a great offering to offer your teacher. Like give him an empty cup, although don't give him an empty cup because that's kind of inauspicious. Like put something in it, maybe a note or something, right? But give them an empty cup and be like, teach me, please, right? But what else does he do with it? He shows up and he has all this gold. He makes this huge prayer, Munam Deba, and then he throws it all into the sky, right? This is how committed he is to his teacher. He wasn't like, oh, damn, Jason Kappa is no longer around. I guess I'll just keep it for myself. Nope. He's like, all right, well, I'm still going to make the offering, Jason Kappa. I don't care if you're here or not, and throws it up into the sky. All right. So what happens after he throws it up in the sky? Something excellent happens at the end of this, okay? Is that like a rain, Bepa, all right? Like a rain, all of those coins, all of that gold and silver, etc., fell down on Ganden Monastery. So he's just hanging out. Who knows where he was? Throws it up into the sky, probably not next to Ganden Monastery, but it'd be a funnier story if it was, but it's not. He threw it up into the sky with great faith. And then it landed at Ganden Monastery as an offering to Jason Kappa, who was no longer there in body. Okay. So that's pretty cool. So the story, excuse me. So the story we have here is after Jason Kaba writes his book, we have the story of a student who wasn't able to meet him. So there's a couple things here. One is your teachings will go long on after you pass on, after you transition. You go to your parinirvana, your teacher goes to Buddhahood or something like that. The teachings will go on. I'm just even thinking about someone really beautifully sent me a photo the other day of my 4-year anniversary of teaching ACI courses. May 18th, 2001, ACI 1, class 1. I was like, it's only been 4 years. It's felt like a lifetime already. Right. And they found it on YouTube. They were looking for something else and it popped up. Right. And it has views on it, like a significant number of views. Right. And I'm like, crap, people are watching this. Oh God, I got to be careful what I say. But people have come to me and said, oh, I watched your class from 4 years ago. I'm like, oh, and then they're like, you said this thing. And I'm like, oh, great. That sounds nice. I have no idea what I said. Right. But the teachings go on. Right. And the impact, the LAMRIM impact, in my point of view here, is the teachings go on after you have passed. After, if the wisdom is correct, the teachings will continue onwards and will still have an effect. And you still get the seeds for it, by the way. Okay. So am I teaching because it's May 22nd, 8:44 a.m. in the morning, Arizona time? Or am I teaching for 500 years? 54 people 53 people listening right now. Or am I imagining that 500 people are listening in 500 years? Right? It changes the flavor of your teaching. It changes the point of your teaching, because it's not about just what's happening right now. It's about what happens. And with, as long as the internet still works in 500 years, people might watch it and it might affect people. And is it a pride to be like, oh, I'm going to be impactful in 500 years? No, not really. I mean, you could make it prideful, but you could also be like, look, this is a multi-generational mission. Wouldn't it be cool if I got to listen to myself in the future? I get to go onto my, don't even know that it was me, and I get to listen to myself, and I'm like, wow, I really like this guy. I don't know why. He was pretty cool. Maybe I'm helping my future self get enlightened. That would be kind of cool. And maybe that's the point of teaching. Maybe. Because you're helping others. So, and the other point here is that this student who wasn't able to meet his teacher in person still made the offering. Right? It made a fervent prayer, a munlam, a very powerful prayer. Right? And then threw it up into the sky. Then it landed in Gandhi Monastery, which is pretty darn cool. 1 to 1.5 views. Great. I only have 1 view on my YouTube channel. Lovely. I think she meant 1,000, but I like the fact that I only have 1.5 views. That even makes the story even better. Excuse me. All right. All right, let's keep translating. Let's go. Enough of the story. So the point is that the money comes, the offering goes somewhere else, and it goes someplace holy. So in that way, look, you never know what what your offering could be used for. And I think that's also the point. Like, I don't have the capacity to throw money up in my, even from here in Rimrock, I can't like throw gold coins up in the air and it goes lands in Geshe Michael's yard. I mean, I could get one of those like, like air guns, right? And like try to shoot the coins into his yard. That'd be kind of fun, right? But, but I think it's the intention, that the intention behind your offering. Like, make the offering pure. Like, that's the point. Like, you're offering your empty cup, emptying your cup, make it pure. All right. We're never going to finish this LAMRIM. How about Sarah? Would you like to read the next short line?
Thank you. Dana se moi don sao we don drola neme pani jedagnichin poi le she
Good. Pronunciation is getting very good. So for all of these reasons, dene, right? Therefore, right? For all of these reasons. Dinam, right? All of those books, right? Those things that Jason Kappa did, his great explanations, lekshe, like lexo, right? What's that from? Lexo. Heart Sutra, yes. Right. His exquisite explanations, lekshe, right? Of the Lord J. Dagni Chenpo Mahatma, right? The great Jason Kappa, right? All of those exquisite explanations are unsurpassed. What are unsurpassed? His commentaries, his clarification of the true meaning, dunsel, of the profound, sabmoy, meaning emptiness. So this is just basically saying Jason Kappa was a great dude, a Mahatma, right? Had excellent explanations. And what did he do? He clarified the true meaning of the Buddha's teachings. All right. Hey, leave her alone. Oh, gosh. Apparently, my cat wants a pet. All right. Next line. Jackie. Starting here with.
We're on the top one. JD Hongul Yi Song Ko Yinzir Sanang Nala Batan Mabe Pa Zung Za Pal Sherla Sad Marmi Zadbar.
All right, here we go. So this is say mar, and then this is say. This is a low tone. So that's how we would distinguish between these two. So this is high tone say, and this is say. Just for clarification at some point. All right, so Kitty's joining us, by the way. So Jason Kappa here, J, right, did not accept the authority, did not accept the trustworthiness of the vast majority. So Palkshar La means majority. Okay. So he did not accept the vast majority of other sutras, of other texts. Shung just means text in general. Shen means other. He did not accept Semarmise, those texts which Tenla Bepa means to establish or set forth or something like that. So he didn't accept the vast majority of ways that these other texts tried to establish the correct meaning of emptiness. Okay. And basically, and they were, let me see here. I need to check up one word here. Come on. What's Nangne means? That were within, referring to the classical commentaries of, hey, hold on. We got to save everyone's life. I'm sorry. I'm planting seeds right now. Okay. So within the Tenchas, the classical commentaries in the land of Aryas, Pakyu, which means India. So Tsongkhapa refused to accept the trustworthiness of those explanations set forth in many of the classical commentaries. And he says the vast majority of the classical commentaries coming out of India. And that's a really big statement. Okay. There's only a few that he would accept. And what is he going to accept? Tracy, can you read this next long line? I apologize. There's no way to make it shorter. I tried.
Okay, thank you. Je rang gi yi dam jempe jangla kenji shukpana jampal ki je lamar dawa drakpani sange ki shing kam shik na nesa tumpoi jang chup sampa nam che nying to chen shik kun po lu rup ki sab mo tab tawe tempa pelchir sam shin jon pa yimpe.
Oh, and it's not actually the end of the thought. This means like, therefore, right? It continues on, but I decided to break it up here.
Is there another part?
Oh, no, we're just gonna pause there. It splits, the idea actually continues on through here, but there was no way to split it up any other way sooner. So basically, Tsongkhapa himself, Rangi, right? When he was asking questions, but this is like a high honorific. Like the language we're being used here is extremely, deferential towards Tsongkhapa. When he was making supplications for answers, right? He's looking for speech, right? He's looking for speech, holy speech, from who? Jampe Yang Manjushri. And there's this key word here called yidam, which is the first time we saw it. We've seen it written out here. And yidam generally refers to someone's personal Jesus. Okay. And what I mean by that is personal angel. And I say it that way because there's a song, right? Your personal angel, the one that comes to you to teach you the things you need to know. And in the highest of all teachings, the yidam ends up becoming your spiritual partner. Okay. As the outer angel. Okay. The one who comes to you. And this concept is so misunderstood that, I don't like to talk about it very much, because when we put this, it kind of comes across as like this pressure oriented thing where you have to find your spiritual partner right now. You need to have that person, and then everyone goes around looking for partners and their spiritual partner, and it's like, just calm down a little bit, right? It's like, it's a very specific kind of relationship. And when you learn more about like what Naropa had to go through with Niguma, for example, like, these aren't normal relationships. It's fine to have a normal relationship. It's fine to have an extraordinary relationship that turns into a spiritual partnership. but it's a very specific kind of practice where the outer angel comes to you, right, and teaches you how to become like them. Now, in this case, this is not referring specifically to highest Anuttara Tantra, unsurpassed yoga, spiritual partner union practice. That's not what this is talking about. Okay. But we're using a kind of meaning that the angel did come to him, his personal angel. He had that vision. We talked about it. And I forgot to give you the meditation at the beginning of class today. We will do it next time. Remind me in the beginning of class if I forget. There's a meditation I want to do. Right? How do you start planting the seeds to have visions of Manjushri or Tara or Vajragini or Vajradhara, right? Whomever it is. How do you start planting the seeds for that, right? Wouldn't it be cool to talk to Manjushri? Last night I was sitting on my porch translating, like to be sitting next to Manjushri being like, yo, what does this mean, right? So he's making supplication for more answers. He's like, Manjushri, help. I need more help. And so Jampel says to Jay Lama, he says something to Jay Lama. And what does he say? He says, Chandakirti. Let's take Chandakirti. Dawa Drakpani. Chandakirti was an amazing bodhisattva, Chanchu Sempa. Satunpoi, amazing, exalted, incredible, awesome. Okay. He was an amazing bodhisattva who had Namcho, which means incredible intelligence, something like wisdom, right? He had incredible intelligence, incredible wisdom. He had incredible courage. All right. So he has all those things. He's courage. He has wisdom. He's an exalted bodhisattva. And then he came from, and this is interesting, he came from a Buddha paradise, which is really cool to say that Chandakirti was hanging out in his Buddha paradise and was like, ooh, I think I need to help these people. And then emanated as Chandakirti. All right. So what it says down here is Samshin Junpa Yinpei. He came intentionally. He was thinking, I need to do something here. I need to come to this world and help. So he came intentionally from a Buddha paradise with great wisdom, great courage for the purpose, right? For the benefit, in order to spread the teachings on emptiness, the profound teachings on worldview of Ki Ludrup, the protector Nagarjuna. Okay, so Chandakirti, Manjushri said, look, after all of this, after, you have these visions of all these different teachers like Buddha Palita, and then you study their texts, right? And then maybe you see emptiness directly, right? He had the vision, he got the lung, he studied their text, he understood emptiness. And then he's like, look, the Indian commentaries, they're okay. But they don't really align with the correct view. Because he had seen emptiness directly. He should know. You see, like someone who's seen emptiness directly knows. And then they know someone who hasn't. They can see it in the text, right? They know it's not accurate. So he's like, look, the vast majority of these things don't align. This is not accurate. I can't teach this. And then he's like, Manjushri, help. And Manjushri's like, okay, actually, there is someone. Go check out Chandakirti. He was a Buddha. He came from a Buddha paradise, thought about it, decided to come as a high bodhisattva to explain emptiness, entering the middle way. All right. And so Jason Kappa was like, oh, that's cool. I'll go study that guy. And then I'll read this last line and then we'll finish up for today here. Where's this last? Oh, come on, Tim. All right. So the last line here is De Shunla Nortru Mesosungkashin. Okay. He also said that, hold on, what did he say? That all the texts are free from any errors. So Manjushri, his personal Yidam, his personal angel, said, go study Chandakirti because it's free of any errors. And then you'll get the correct explanations. Right. Which it's interesting, like he probably, I'm guessing an Arya like knows emptiness, right? But is trying to find the right explanations because it's beyond words and thoughts, beyond all words and all thought. So how the heck do you use language, which is words and thoughts, and words and thoughts that are not emptiness, to describe emptiness to help people have a direct perception of emptiness, which is not the words and thoughts. Sorry, translators. Good. I don't know if you said it correctly, but good job. I'm sorry, that was difficult. So, right. So then when he read Chandakirti, he was like, oh, this is it. Like, I can do something with this. Right. And then that's when we get a lot of his other works. All right. So we have a little bit more of Jason Kappa next time. And then, yep. And then we're going to start on with a description of emptiness. All the things you need to know about emptiness. And I'm going to have to start translating like 4 days in advance for this class now. I'm already into it. And I'm like, oh, this is difficult. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to work on such difficult and important things. I was talking to someone the other day. I really want to publish both of these chapters as independent books, like meditation and emptiness, shamatha vipassana. I think once we publish this, it can help a lot of people. Teaching people about emptiness and teaching people how to meditate and merging the two together can help a tremendous number of people. I was watching a video yesterday. Does everyone know who Ray Dalio is? I don't know if he's the principal at BlackRock. The heck it's some big investment firm. He makes a crap ton of money. Bridgewater, excuse me. I'm sorry. He works for Bridgewater. It doesn't matter. They're all big investment companies, right? He makes a crap ton of money, and he's written a lot of really good books on how to look at history and how to look at larger perspectives, and very, very smart and very insightful. And I saw a video of him yesterday talking about his meditation practice. I was like, oh, Ray, you teach me how to invest, I'll teach you how to meditate, right? But he's meditated all of his life, and he has a practice, and he's consistent, right? And I was realizing, like, and I'm not criticizing him. I mean, if he's been that successful, it's obviously working for him in some ways. And the video was for people who don't know anything about meditation. But I was like, oh man, Ray, I'd love to partner up with you. Like, let me give you just a little bit more juice in your meditation, and you could reach so many more people. So I have a new goal. I want to meet Ray Dalio and teach him how to meditate. Excuse me, teach him a little bit more about the depths of meditation, because he could influence a lot of people. And I'm suspicious. I'm thinking he probably already knows all of it. and he's just presenting in a certain way. But I was a little like, I was sad. I was like, oh, that's what you're saying meditation is? Oh, fuck. Except he said he does it every day, twice a day. So maybe he knows something, we'll see. He must be doing something right. I'm thinking he is. So I want to meet him and be like, Ray, if we put a little bit more into it, we could elevate people. Because I already know that but how do we elevate people? So anyhow, that's all I got for you today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See you on Monday. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, tech team. Thanks for joining. And hope you all have a wonderful day and say goodbye to each other.
Goodbye. Thank you for teaching.
Thank you, Tima. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Марічко, дякую за
so much,
переклад.
Dad.
Чудовий.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Muchas
Thank you,
gracias.
Chima. We love you.
Gracias, maestro. Por favor, quédate.
Love you, the cat.
Thank you so much for
Muchas
so beautiful
gracias.
teachings. Have a perfect day.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. And everyone here, you're great
Please
guys.
stay.